Middle podcast, the podcast dedicated to the music, movies, and culture of Generation X.
What is up, slackers, and welcome to another episode of the Stuck in the Middle podcast. I am your host, Jason Eck, and this week we are going to be getting into a little bit more of a dig into some interesting things from the past, as I like to do here on the show. But first, just a brief, just want to take a brief moment and, I'm recording this on September 12th, which is my cousin's birthday, so shout out to my cousin Rob. Yesterday was September 11th, and not to go too deep into it. I guess one of the things that I hope people think about, and who knows who ever hears something on a podcast. I certainly don't go out of my way to try to do anything to go viral, which is kind of on me, particularly if I want to grow the show. But I don't like to do clickbaity kind of things. I should probably post more than I do. But one of the things that I've noticed, particularly on X, formerly known as Twitter, and with 9/11, it is a very solemn remembrance for many reasons. Not only the loss of life, but kind of a change to how we live our lives here in America, but also really around the world, particularly what we call the Western countries with close associations and affiliations with the U.S. Even though many countries had the kind of severe security that we adopted post 9/11, some were already doing. And I think most notably, Israel being a prime example, as well as some of the other Middle Eastern countries. But here's what I'd want to say for whoever's listening. I actually really enjoy conspiracy theories. I think that some conspiracy theories have, with time, proven to be accurate. Others have been debunked. Regardless, it's all about reading the room, as they say. A lot of people have opinions about 9/11. But for God's sake, if you want to post about 9/11 conspiracy theories, 364 days out of the year, fine. But on that day, think about the number of people, regardless of the conspiracy theory stuff, okay? Lost family, friends, colleagues, peers, just other Americans, whether it's New Yorkers or for us, there was a lot of people from Boston on that plane because, one of the planes. Two of the planes? I don't know. Did all three leave from Logan? Ugh. The point is, you might think, well, on that day, you're going to get more eyes on your conspiracy theory than you do the other 364 days out of the year. And it's going to get you engagement and clicks. See, this is the part that I have a hard time with, right? Why I don't want to be out there just shamelessly, constantly plugging for engagement and saying ludicrous things or just posting these obvious engagement things. But I know that I need to do it. But not for something like this. Do you know what I mean? Now, I'm sure that most sensible people or many sensible people who, experience significant loss on that day probably don't go onto social media on that day. And maybe they do to see the more touching tributes, the celebrations of life, right? The positive affirmations that come out of tragedy. But come on, you people who are out there saying today more than ever, you need to know it was this, this, and this. I mean, come on, just for that day, let people who will always grieve on this day, children who've never met their, well, I mean, they might have met a parent. No, actually, how many people, kids never met their father. There's a lot. Or kids who are too young to remember their mother. Or worse, the people who, I don't know if it's worse or better to have never known. I don't know. It's just brutal. So please, knock it off with that shit. Pretty please. Just sucks. So anyway, as we always say when we get to this time of year, you gotta hug your loved ones a little bit tighter. Remember why. Remember what happened. And whether you believe it was just a, in quotes, terrorist attack by some, radicalized folks, whether you think it's an inside job, whatever it is that you think that it is, it's still a tragedy, took human life. And for those of you who have directly suffered, lost someone that you know and love, you have my support and my love and my prayers, and know that we think about you this time of year. Even if we don't know you, our hearts go out to all of you. So anyway, that's my little soapbox. It's not even like a political thing. It's just obnoxious. Do you know what I mean? It's just obnoxious. Even if I were going to be overtly political, I don't think there would be anything that would change my mind about thinking that that's okay. But we're going to focus on a little bit more lighthearted topic. I was thinking about advertisements because from what I can tell, and it's not just about advertisements, but hear me out. Where was this episode born from? Well, I don't know about you, but I don't really see a ton of ads on a routine basis. And I think part because you have the option to skip them. I don't know about you. I don't watch a ton of terrestrial television, like big network stuff. I do pay a ridiculous amount for streaming services, which minimize or eliminate advertisements altogether. And from what I can tell, most advertisements seem to be for pharmaceuticals. So you can do with that what you will. We can talk about conspiracy theories and politics and power and money and all that, but a lot of pharmaceutical ads. Like, I feel like that's like the product now, like some form of medication. Those are the primary things that we seem to be advertising for, with the exception of things that I do find kind of curious. And it's kind of what made me think about this topic. So, Liberty Mutual, right? They have some great ads, and, they also have the, liberty, 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 right? They have a little catchphrase, a little slogan, right? And a couple of the, insurance companies seem to have a nice job with this, right? Nationwide is on your side. Chicken parm, you taste so good. That's the Peyton Manning ad, right? So they seem to do a really wonderful job of having slogans, catchphrases, right? But when we were kids, it seemed like everything had a catchphrase. Whether it was advertisements, whether it was your primetime television show, right? Always an ad, always a jingle, always a catchphrase. Now you can go all the way back to the beginning of TV and think about shows like The Honeymooners, right? One of these days, Alice, right? Or I Love Lucy. Lucy, you've got some splaining to do. Oh, Ricky, right? These are all my hokey impersonations of people. But, or you can go to the Dick Van Dyke Show. Oh, Rob, right? So there's always been like these little catchy things that kind of make them make their way into the public consciousness, into the zeitgeist, if you will. So I thought about all the catchphrases that we had, and we had so many. So I'm going to focus just on the 70s and the 80s tonight, and not even get into a couple of things that came from the 90s. So let's jump right in to the 1970s. Now, this is from a list on something called Flashback. Everything old is new again. Now, this article was posted a long time ago, but gosh, it is perfect. And let's start off right out of the gate with Jimmy Walker. Dynamite from Good Times. Right out of the gate. Such good stuff. And as they put it here, the undisputed grand poobah of all catchphrases, bask in its canned laughter glory. Man, you know, gotta love a good laugh track. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. Of course, you're all going to know what this one is. Hey. Fonzie's hey. Right? But there's a couple of them on Happy Days. And in fact, I believe one of them doesn't make the list. But what about, what you talking about, Willis? From Different Strokes. How many times have you heard that even used in other shows, probably in advertisements, probably on skits, videos, etc.? To this day, what you're talking about is used. Like that is, I think, a permanent part of our language to some extent, because everyone who hears it knows. I guess I shouldn't say that. I'm sure maybe some younger folks don't know what it is, but I bet you they've heard it, even if they don't know the source of it. Right? Then you have Hey, Hey, Hey from What's Happening. Was that Rerun? Yeah, it's Rerun, right? Man, that big dude could dance, let's be honest. We have, of course, the legendary Robin Williams with Nanu Nanu. That's a traditional Orkin greeting. Right? Nanu Nanu. Happy Days, once again with Sit on It. But that's not the one I'm thinking of. Why is it escaping me? There's another one that Richie used to say, but I cannot for the life of me place it. And I feel like it was something at Ralph Malph. It'll come to me. I don't want to look it up right now. I want to just keep going with the list. I don't remember this as well. The show was on only for a few seasons, but Up Your Nose with a Rubber Hose from Welcome Back, Kotter. What was that? Horseshack? Did he say that? I'm assuming so. Next, you have the legendary Red Fox and You Big Dummy as Sanford and Son. Now, this show, I know a lot of people, and I've heard recently, people have gone back to watch the original series. A remake was done, but I never got into it. I know I've watched episodes here or there, but for those of you who loved it, you can be like, absolutely. Book 'em, Dano, from Hawaii Five-0. Just not something I ever really identified with or got into. I mentioned this, I believe, last week. Legendary Hervé Villachez with Deplane. Look, boss, deplane. You're getting all my bad impressions tonight. Next, the legendary, I keep saying legendary, but I think all of them are. Stifle, which is, of course, Carol O'Connor, in All in the Family. But he doesn't say dingbat. Don't you have to have dingbat in there? Another Mork and Mindy with Shazbot. Okay, when I was in elementary school, I know for certain we all spoke in Orkin all the time. Shazbot was something absolutely people said. Same thing with Nanu Nanu, right? I mean, just did it all the time, which is ridiculous, but like that was so ingrained in like our everyday conversations. Oh, this one. This is either a beautiful thing or cursed, right? What do they call it? Blurst, when it's a little bit of both. Good night, John boy. Good night, Ma. Good night, Pa. And the whole Waltons. Oh, boy. And then I feel bad even saying it, right? I believe it was Chevy Chase to Jane Curtin. Jane, you ignorant slut. from Saturday Night Live and Weekend Update. The inimitable Telly Savalas, who loves you, baby. I don't have a good Telly Savalas voice. I've mentioned this one many times, including when we did the episode on the sitcom theme songs, Kiss My Grits, which is, of course, Flo from the TV show Alice. And then finally, not finally, what am I doing? There's a whole bunch more. My bad. I don't remember this one. I believe the show was only on for a couple of seasons. So it looks as though it made it onto TV Land, but I thought it wouldn't have had enough episodes. So hold on. I am going to do a little research here because I didn't realize this lasted that long. I guess I should know better since we did talk about the show. Wow, it ran for 4 seasons, 88 episodes. And that is Chico and the Man with Looking Good. I don't remember that one. So this show only ran from 1974 to 1978. All like when I was like really little. And I don't remember it being a big thing, but I, for some reason, recall being at one of my elementary schools and people talking about Chico and the Man. I'm trying to remember why. I have a feeling it was related to Freddie Prinze passing away. And I just, let's see. Yeah, he did. He shot himself. That's what I thought. I seem to remember maybe that being the reason it was discussed. Oh my gosh. Prince had a history of playing Russian roulette to frighten his friends or for his amusement. Wow. That's so bad. Poor Freddie Prinze Jr., man. So, boy. Well, looking good, Chico and the Man. I don't know the context of that particular catchphrase. Hello, how are ya? That's also welcome back, Cotter. We have another Fred Sanford with Elizabeth. This is a big one. Coming to join you. Made myself cough with that one. We have Bill Bixby. Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. From the Incredible Hulk. Okay. So this one's gonna cause me to go off on a little tangent. So here we are 2 wild and crazy guys. And of course that was Dan Aykroyd and Steve Martin. Now Steve Martin, who I can't even call it a career resurgence. Like, it's just Steve freaking Martin, right? So Steve Martin and Martin Short, of course, with Selena Gomez, are the leads on the show Only Murders in the Building, which is, in my opinion, fantastic. I think it's a great show. I love the fact that you have these like 2 legendary comics with, I don't know, Selena Gomez is kind of an icon for her generation. Let's be honest. And according to my oldest boy, that's his girl. Woo woo. Anyway, but there was some kind of op-ed piece, or some call it a hit piece on Martin Short. Basically, the gist of it being, why do we continue to put up with Martin Short or whatever? So I will admit that Martin Short does have a number of characters that can be, only way you can describe them are grating. But part of that is what he's doing purposely. Like Jiminy Glick is meant to be grating. Ed Grimley is meant to be weird, right? Like that's part of the gimmick. But I find him to be such a natural performer. Man, that Fred Sanford really, excuse me. It went right down in my throat, and I was like trying to get it from this like bassy place. Anyway, a sip of water, and I should be good to go for the rest of the episode. I hope. Anyway, but I think he's a really, really gifted performer. I think he is legitimately funny, as much as he's had some roles that are meant to be obnoxious. Like, I don't know what to tell you if you don't think The Three Amigos is funny. It is. Like the three of them are comedy geniuses for very different reasons, very different deliveries, and that's what made it so effective. Yeah, but he's also, in my estimation, a very gifted, dramatic actor. So yeah, the Martin Short hate, I don't quite get it. If you heard the article, read the article, and you agree, hey, all the power to you. We all have our opinions, but I think Martin Short is awesome, honestly, and still putting great work up there. So kudos to Martin Short. Digression over. Moving on. So this one is hard because you have earlier, hey, 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 and then you have, hey, hey, hey. Oh, I'm going to make myself cough. Hey, 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 which is Fat Albert, of course, by he who should not be named. Yes, I have made Cosby Voldemort. Anyway, of course, Fat Albert, great animated show, and Mushmouth was a nickname I have for my wife, who I am hearing impaired. She mumbles. What a bad combination sometimes. Like, what? Okay, this one, I didn't watch a ton of it. I watched it in reruns, but let's see if I can, again, all my worst impressions. Imagine my good ones. Anyway, just one more thing. That was more Rocket Raccoon than it was Peter Falk. But Columbo, who always had that, I've got it, and he breaks the case. Wow. That's Chachi, but meh. Still not the one I'm thinking of. What is that other one from Happy Days? Gosh, it's bugging me. And then finally, at the beginning of every single episode of the wide world of sports, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. And you watch that poor dude miss that ski jump, bang, 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 boom, bang, 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 all the way down. Absolutely brutal. So that guy is the embodiment of the agony of defeat. I should just do a whole episode on that because I'd love to know more about that guy, that whole experience. But that was the 70s. But we haven't even gotten to the 80s yet. So, okay, Happy Days. What was Richie Cunningham? I felt like Richie had another thing that he said, and I can't figure out what it is. Someone is running the printer down here because they must have a paper due. So I apologize for the whirring that's occurring in the background. Or it's my wife printing. Oh, it's at work. Good grief. Anyway, what a lovely noise. Richie Cunningham. Bucko! Yeah. Look, Bucko. And of course, he also had, he always sings, I found my thrill on Blueberry Hill, as well as Yowza, Yowza, Yowza. See how I was never going to come up with Bucko or Yowza, Yowza, Yowza. Oh my gosh. Yowza, Yowza, Yowza. What good stuff. So stupid, but yet another great catchphrase from good old Happy Days. Someone is printing multiple pages. So let's move on to the 80s. If I had an editor, I'd be like, hey, editor, can you put a really cool 80s clip as a segue between the 70s and the 80s and have a natural place for an advertisement to go? Because instead of going in a logical spot when I use Spreaker, which it auto places the ads, it's going to have me in the middle of a sentence or like taking a sip or, breathing. All right. Here we are in the 80s. And this one, everyone knows. That includes kids of other generations. I don't know why. I don't know how. But the bottom line is everybody knows I've fallen and I can't get up. So it's not just from, TV sitcoms or TV shows. There's also the fact that like the 80s infomercials are amazing. Oh, LifeAlert. Absolutely brutal. Made me so scared from like my grandparents there. I'm like, do you have one? Do you have a LifeAlert? Oh, we have this pull chain in the bathroom in case. Oh, brutal. Here we are. We have a movie And I think everyone continues to say this. Or if you hear someone say it, you can't help but hear it in a different voice. Again, terrible impression number 953 incoming. I'll be back. The Terminators, I'll be back. Number 3. B.A. Baracus. The one and only, the inimitable Mr. T with A Pity the Fool. Remember DC Cab? Oh, good grief. Gotta love T. Made the Mohawk, mainstream. Made big, bad gold chains mainstream. Gotta love that guy. Another ad that I think is just, you have to look at it as being so prototypically 80s. There's a clip at just this lady. She is an old lady who's looking with her glasses up close at what appears to be a very small burger patty. And of course, one of her friends, also a gray-haired old woman, says, "Where's the beef?" When that ad came out, I remember everyone. I remember my stepdad. Everyone. Where's the beef? Where's the beef? And I think that it still holds true. Whenever you, as it puts here, use, anytime you want to question the substance of something. Yeah, but where's the beef? Not to be confused with Charlene and I smell like beef. Ah, yes. So my oldest and his buddies, before they left for college, all got together because one of them really wanted the guys to see the classic Tony Montana from Cuba. Say hello to my little friend. I mean, it's a great catchphrase, which has been parodied and used as the whole gravitas of the movie itself doesn't get necessarily overshadowed by like the over the top campiness of it. It's just, it's so typical of the 80s where you're really on this fine line, a really fine line between seriously dramatic and an amazing performer in Al Pacino. And of course, Michelle Pfeiffer, and just the surroundings, the settings, the violence, all of it. But wow. What? Say hello to my little friend. They summarize it beautifully here. It's such a ridiculous, funny, yet violent part of the movie that it really stuck. It's like it's this juxtaposition where he kind of has this like morbid humor. It's great stuff. Oh, if you've never done it, I don't know what to say. But I know that I've done it with the guys out driving around. Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon? So pompous, so stupid. But of course. So great, though. So great. I just watched some weird thing about, I like poop on everything. I put poop on my sandwich. Of course, the 80s, you also have What You Talking About, Willis, because obviously that show ran from the 70s to the 80s, which you can go ahead and check out on my episode about sitcoms that went from the 70s into the 80s. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah, she wouldn't like me when I'm angry. That carried over as well. And then we have I Want My MTV. Yeah, I want the music in MTV. Should have been renamed RTV for reality television. That would have been a great rebrand. I'm going to be honest. But everyone said, I want my MTV. And they would have a montage or multiple really big superstars all chiming in. I want my MTV. And of course, the beginning of Dire Straits' Money or Nothing has Sting singing, I want my MTV. Yeah. Okay. I've said it on the podcast before. I'm not a Goonies guy. Sue me, hate me, fine, whatever. Not a Goonies guy. Never liked it, never enjoyed it, not my jam. What can I tell you? So when I read this, I don't think of the Goonies. I think of the Electric Company, which replaced it into the 70s, into the 80s. And that's, hey, you guys. That's great stuff. Ah, I see the culprit now who has been printing on the printer. It is my daughter. Yeah, that's where the paper comes out. And you've got some other things there too. Please, no, in your hand. You have multiple things in your hand. All right, we got to run in by my daughter. Okay. And she has locked the door on her way out. Anyway, so she looks very embarrassed. Okay, I don't know about you, but I have seen this in real life, in real use, because my grandmother bought one. So my grandmother was divorced from my grandfather and was living on her own. And the way that her bedroom was set up and like where the lights were, now that she was residing by herself, still the big bed, those kind of things, right? She wanted to be able to watch TV in bed. And all the lights in the room were on the light switch. So she would have to get out of bed to turn on or off the switch, right? So she got herself clap on, clap off, clap on, clap off, the clapper. She sure did. She loved that freaking thing. I mean, it did work. It really did. I remember like sleeping over there one weekend and I think I wasn't feeling well. And like, she's like, okay, you can just watch something in my bed while you lie down kind of thing. And freaking, wouldn't you know it? Boom, turn it off. Good stuff. I mentioned this one before, more on the slang, not really catchphrase, although I guess it kind of was in its own way, but this is, gag me the spoon. I think that was actually just slang that was used. Oh boy. Hi, we are Hans and Franz, and we are here to pump you up. Gotta love that. Dana Carvey, Kevin Nealon doing their best Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, including, by the way, a guest spot with Arnold himself. But it was so stupid and good. I mean, that's why I love that era of Saturday Night Live too. Like I look at it that late 80s to early 90s. Like that's my Saturday Night Live more than it is like for, I'm sure you older Xers, right? Who were really into that or like original cast. And even into those early, like that secondary phase of like your Billy Crystal, Martin Short, for example, like the SCTV folks who came on to Saturday Night Live. For me, it was like, Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, Kevin Nealon, Dennis Miller, of course, Sandler and Spade, Farley, Norm Macdonald. Like that's just my bread and butter. Yeah, I loved that era. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting her name. Jan. Oh my gosh. Oh, who was the one? Oh, Sherry O'Terry. Loved Sherry O'Terry. But that's not the one that I'm thinking of. Oh my gosh. She had a Southern accent, or she did a Southern accent really, really well. Not James Kaczmarek. I will look it up, or you know what? I'm going to do an episode on Saturday Night Live, and I think I know who I want to have on the show with me. Okay, so, by the power of Grayskull, good old He-Man. Prince Adam becomes He-Man by uttering the words, "I have the power," and they look nothing alike. Oh, I use this one all the time. I use it all the time. I do. If someone, like a kid of mine, for example, might say something and they'll go, "Oh, I didn't know that." I'm like, well, now you know. And knowing is half the battle. Hell yeah. Yeah. This cat-eating alien would say things, some shtick, a good joke, and go, "Ha! I kill me. Of course, talking about Alf. Oh, RoboCop. I'll buy that for $1. Good grief. Oh, something must have printed poorly because we're having a sequel to the... Wow. Okay. So the recently departed Paul Rubens, of course, had a number of different catchphrases, but I think the key one is the word of the day, or as he would say, the word of the day is whatever the word may be. It could be chair, like Cherry, because he had a chair named Cherry. I do a better Paul Rubens than that, or a better Pee-wee than that, but I was distracted by the printer queen that just came in here. I guess she's the printer princess. Thunder, thunder, Thundercats. Oh, I don't want to scream at the top of my lungs. I don't remember this last one that's on the list. I guess I didn't really watch the show much, like kind of, crushed a little bit when she was older, of course. Because when she was older, she was in a movie. Oh, what was it? Was she in like Poison Ivy 2? Anyway, Soleil Moon Frye, who was originally Punky Brewster, and apparently she said, "Holy Macanoli." Now, I don't remember this, but what I do remember is that she was the younger sister of Mino Pilus. I forget what show he was on. Anyway, Holy Macanoli. I don't remember that one. It's supposed to be holy macaroni and cannoli mixed together. Anyway, Soleil Moon Frye, she's awesome. Yeah, I think it was Poison Ivy 2. She did something else too around that time. Moon. Why am I spelling this wrong? Shouldn't be that difficult to spell Soleil Moon Frye. Yeah, 1976. She was born in 1976. Oh, I didn't even know this. She was on Sabrina the Teenage Witch as Roxy King. I didn't watch that show. She directed her first film, Wild Horses, 1998. I do remember vaguely. That's how she kind of got back into not the mainstream necessarily. Let's see. Wild Horses. She did Pumpkinhead too. Good grief. I guess she did a lot of stuff with the Bratz series. I didn't know about that. Punky Brewster, Different Strokes, Magruder, and Load. The Law and Harry McGraw. Don't remember that. Cadets. She did an episode of Saved by the Bell. Ren and Stimpy show she had a voice on. Yeah, she did a lot of just varied work. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Is that animated? I don't know. Oh, yeah, the one with Melissa Joan Hart. Yeah. Anyway, so those are just some of the catchphrases. I'm trying to think if there's any that immediately come to mind. Now, of course, you get into the 90s. You have, Urkel. Did I do that? Oh, you know what? There are some that are missing. Like, didn't Tony Danza have "Hey Yo, Away, Oh Yay," whatever that was from Who's the Boss? I'm sure there's a bunch that I'm not thinking of. But I just feel like it doesn't exist anymore. Like, when's the last, major catchphrase that became a thing? Like, I guess you have Bazinga, right? Bazinga from Big Bang Theory. You have Winter is Coming. Everyone, winter is coming. You Know Nothing, Jon Snow. I guess there's a couple from Game of Thrones. But yeah, it just seems like it's not as prevalent. I guess it's really not as prevalent. I did mention, all of those pharmaceutical ads, and that seems like the bulk of it, but maybe I'm just not watching a lot of current stuff because I'm really not, like I said, I watched Only Murders in the Building, watched The Witcher show. I think with The Witcher show, all I found myself singing all the time, not singing, but just going, because that's kind of the character, Geralt being very grunty. I guess toss a coin to your Witcher. But I used so many of these. It was just daily conversation, like somewhere or another. One of these things seemed to be just part of the conversation. And maybe it was a matter that, let's say a show aired on Tuesday. You go into school the next day and it's fresh in your mind. Oh, did you see last night's episode or whatever? And you just kind of say these things. Definitely the Fonzie thing. Hey, and like thumbs up and all that. The Fonz. Those were definitely used all the time. It's just language. I just think language is interesting and how these things can become just fixtures, just absolute fixtures. Now, I did do a little bit of research in that I was trying to find out what was the earliest known catchphrase. But the first time the catchphrase concept was really explored, I guess was in a book in like 1841. And it was basically exploring what, not really social contagion necessarily, but how these kind of catchphrases were a indication of, how do I put this nicely? A less intelligent class of individual who would buy into such things. And this guy, I should have just kept this on my screen. What's the name of the book? Not that you're going to go and find this random tome from 1841. Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds. Published by Charles Mackay in 1841. This is how he says it, Mr. Smarty Pants. And first of all, walk where we will, we cannot help hearing from every side a phrase repeated with delight and received with laughter by men with hard hands and dirty faces, by saucy butcher lads and errand boys, by loose women, by hackney coachmen, cabriolet drivers, and idle fellows who loiter at the corners of streets. Not one utters this phrase without producing a laugh from all within hearing. It seems applicable to every circumstance, and the universal answer to every question. In short, it is the favorite slang phrase of the day, a phrase that, while its brief season of popularity lasts, throws a dash of fun and frolicsomeness over the existence of squalid poverty and ill-requited labor, and gives them reason to laugh, as well as their more fortunate fellows in a higher stage of society. Well, aren't you a pleasant and pompous ass? So, if you, or someone you know, has ever uttered, "Where's the beef?" or "I pity the fool," you may be uncouth and not suited for high-class society, so you should rethink your entire life and stop being such a layabout. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me, please, in the comments, by email, or all the social media platforms that I'm about to give you, what are some of your favorite catchphrases from the 70s and the 80s? I'd really like to know, what did I miss? Or what did I forget? Or what hasn't made any of these lists? Or if there's something so obscure that you remember that you feel like you're the only one who remembers a catchphrase, and there are things like that. We go, did anyone else see that? By all means, share it with me. How do you do that? You can email me at stuckinthemiddlepod@yahoo.com. You can find me on Instagram, X, and YouTube at StuckPodX. Head on over to the Facebook page, Stuck in the Middle, a Gen X podcast. Please like, comment, share. leave 5-star reviews, and most importantly, please subscribe to the podcast. So, until next time, wait for it. It's a catchphrase. Later, slackers.